Edward Corstein is one of the 6 young engineers working for Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, known as Doge, because crypto or something. This video isn't really about the politics. I'm more focused on Edward and how Edward has a bit of a shady past on Discord. You see, investigators looked through businesses registered under Edward's name and found companies called Tesla.sexy and Diamond CDN. And using that information, they found out that Edward had a Discord account called Rivage, who is actually someone I've talked to before, which is never a good sign, by the way. And during that whole entire investigation, Krebs on Security found out that Rivage, or Edward, is part of the COM. Now, if you don't know, the COM is an archipelago of Discord and Telegram chat channels that function as a kind of distributed cybercriminal social network. Anything goes. Cybercrime is abundant, people work together, and people stab each other in the back. It's basically the Wild West of Discord that's rooted in cybercrime. And Rivage, who was involved in the COM, is now working for the US government. And the reason why any of you should care is the fact that at the end of the video, I'm going to explain why you should be concerned about the security of your personal information, especially with Edward being in a government position. And with that, I'm going to dive into each one of Edward or Rivage's shady Discord escapades while diving deeper into the COM rabbit hole that ends with manipulation and betrayal. Let's start with Edward's first escapade, which is a service or website called Tesla.sexy. Now, Tesla.sexy, according to their own website, is an image hosting platform for Discord. And the news picked up on this. Now, I just want to start off before I read this article by saying the media, specifically about this, are a bunch of idiots. Because here's the thing, there's this article by Muskwatch talking about how a Doge teen, Edward Corstein, ran an image sharing website linked to URLs referencing creeps and K cubed. And in the article, they did an analysis of the URL traffic to Tesla.sexy, and they point out that the URLs that Edward Corstein's website had include children blank party, child blank.store, blankiscool.club, N-word rentals, PewDiePie bridge word blank download, owns a slave shop, blanking women, ketamine blank.date, blank.business, and blank's woman. This news article is making it seem like Edward Corstein's image hosting website has the most vile content on the internet. And things get even worse, because if you look at the Tesla.sexy website, they specifically say they advertise privacy. Unlike other image hosting websites, we do not log IP addresses, user agents, or anything similar. Images are encrypted at rest and in transit. And the media went wild with this. Edward Corstein emphasized that Tesla.sexy would protect the identities of users who used the website to share images. So if we just take a step back, the whole picture is that Edward is hosting a website where you can share images that have the domains of this sort of content, and anyone that would use the website would have their identities protected. The news made it seem like this was a website where child predators just run rampant, sharing the most vile content you can imagine. And this could not be further from the truth at all. I don't know what sort of galaxy gas these guys were inhaling, because they are so wrong, it's actually comedic. I made a video talking about which Discord image host is best, and you can see in the video from 3 years ago, I talked about Tesla.sexy. I know what this website was about because the website was made for nerds. So here's the explainer of what Tesla.sexy is and what a Discord image host is. Most normal people in Discord, you can upload an image by just dragging it from your computer, uploading it to Discord, and that's it. But the internet is filled with nerds that like making things look cool or just look different. So instead of people uploading their images to a website like Discord, instead they would upload this image to a website like Tesla.sexy. And what those websites would do is they would allow you to send screenshots by sending people a link. Now, when I send this image, you can see that my normal screenshot, completely normal, but around it we have stupid text, like someone please call my divorce lawyer, I'm being held against my will, this is a genuine cry for help. So all you're doing is just getting a normal screenshot and just making it look cooler by adding a whole bunch of random customizable crap around it. So no, Edward Corstein wasn't running a whole entire Predator image hosting ring. It's just nerds doing nerdy shit to look cool or look different. But since the only people that would actually care about this are young people, instead of these people having their image hosting domain be something stupid like notexttosleep.xyz, instead they would want to be edgy. And that's why Edward Corstein's website, Tesla.sexy, had domains like N-word rentals or N-word blank download. So these offensive domain names were just to be offensive. And here's the thing, after I made this video, I actually got a DM from someone named Rivage. In fact, this was Edward's actual account who DM'd me, and he DM'd me saying, "Hey there, I'm one of the owners of Tesla.sexy. The important thing is that he is one of the owners," which we will get more into a little bit later. And surprisingly, Edward said that he was working towards a more professional look. However, that doesn't excuse the fact that his website had the domain of childblank.store. And there's a reason for explaining this, but things did get worse because of this. In a news article by Wired talking about how the Doge teen owns Tesla.sexy, they pointed out that Tesla.sexy LLC controls dozens of web domains, including at least 2 Russian registered domains. In fact, Wired interviewed a former US Army intelligence officer who said foreign connections, whether it's foreign contacts with friends or domain names registered in foreign countries, would be flagged by any agency during the security investigation process. And spoiler alert, there's more about this foreign connection thing we'll get to later with some espionage threats. And this could be a reason for the government not to accept Edward at a government position, but the truth is, Edward didn't buy all these domains himself. According to Edward himself, he said that 85 plus of the domains on Tesla.sexy are donated by other users. And the reason why they're donated is that people would go on like Namecheap and buy stupid domains. Now, if you wanted to use that domain, you would have to make your own image host and then use that domain for it. It's a whole bunch of work. So instead, people would just give their domains to Rivage or Edward so that they could use that domain through Tesla.sexy so that they have the cool screenshots. And just to make the picture even more clear, Rivage said, "Just today I kicked off domains with a hard R and any other discriminatory vocabulary." Yes, Edward is being woke. Politics are gonna go nuts. I don't care enough for that. But the important thing is that if he's kicking off these domains, it probably means that any domain that was being donated to Edward didn't have an approval process. They would just all automatically be accepted, and then Edward in the future would have to kick off any domains he didn't like, which would very easily explain how these disgusting domains ended up in Edward's website. But let's get back to Rivage or Edward talking about how he's one of the owners. From what I could gather, if you donated a whole bunch of domains to Tesla.sexy, you would become an employee, a staff member, or if you donated enough domains, you would become one of the owners. And at one point, there were 4 owners. There was Rivage, another dude named Sigma, another person named Krabs, and another person named Stoic. There were 4 owners. I don't know how that's possible, but again, it's a fucking Discord company. But with Edward being in the news left, right, and center, people started opening back up old drama that they had. Because what happened is that the Daily Dot released an article talking about how there was leaked audio recordings that revealed doxing and harassment from the company owned by Edward Korestein. In the 2 leaked audio clips, there were 4 people in a Discord group call: Pob, G, Scythens, Crazy, and Sigma was the owner, and they were harassing some random dude in a group chat.
Sir, I would like to inform you to suck my nuts.
That is Sigma, one of the owners.
We are fully aware. That your claims are dog shit. We know who you are.
We already know where you live.
Yeah, we literally doxed you earlier.
I know where you live.
We got your friends, your school, everything, bro.
The kid that got doxed was pretending to be Tesla and then sent a fake cease and desist or copyright notice to Tesla.sexy.
You failed to provide actual legal evidence that you have any affiliation with the Tesla Inc. Corporation whatsoever. And your girlfriend there, buddy. I hope you don't mind. I sent her a picture of my last night.
It's stupid kid drama. They also nuked his Discord server for some reason. All of this happened just days before Rivage reached out to me talking about going a little bit more professional. So eventually what happened, according to what I could find, is that Rivage pulled away in October 2021, took Tesla.sexy by himself, and registered it as his own company. You can see Tesla.sexy LLC was registered on December 2nd, 2021, and the only owner is Edward Korestein. So in my opinion, people freaking out about the company doxing people, it's like saying Edward's friends got mad at someone. Holy f***, that's crazy. But as Edward went solo with Tesla.sexy, he was out of the frying pan and into the fire. Because Edward's second escapade, working at Path Network, is where the real problems start happening. According to the article, at Path Network, Korestein worked as a systems engineer from April to June of 2022, according to his now deleted LinkedIn resume. Path has at times listed employees Eric Taylor, also known as Cosmo the God, a well-known former cybercriminal and member of the hacking group UG, can't say that word on YouTube, YouTube, as well as Matthew Flannery, an Australian convicted hacker whom police allege was a member of the hacker group Lulzsec. Now, Wired found no evidence that Edward Korestein or other Path employees engaged in illegal activity while Edward Korestein was at the company, but despite all of that, according to E.J. Hilbert, a former FBI agent, he said, "If I was doing the background investigation on him, I would probably have recommended against hiring him for the work he's doing. Considering an FBI agent is saying this, I have no idea, again, how Edward is working for the government, considering that he worked for this company. This is a red flag," which also, this whole thing is a red flag because this person also briefly served as the CEO of Path Network. I don't even know what the is going on, and it just gets even more confusing because according to the Krebs on Security article talking about how Edward was in the comm, he talks about this Wired article and explains the twisted history of Path Network and how it relates to the comm. The founder of Path is a young man named Marshall Webb, who Krebs wrote back about Webb in 2016 in a story about a DDoS defense company that he co-founded called BackConnect Security LLC. On September 20th, 2016, Krebs on Security published data showing that the company had a history of hijacking internet address space that belonged to others. And in less than 24 hours after that story ran, Krebs on Security was hit with the biggest DDoS attack the internet had seen at the time. And the other founder of BackConnect Security LLC was Tucker Preston, a Georgia man who pled guilty in 2020 to paying a DDoS for hire service to launch attacks against others. And the aforementioned Path employee, Eric Taylor, pleaded guilty in 2017 to charges including an attack on Krebs's home in 2013 in an act of swatting. This is precisely what the comm is sort of about. There's revenge, there's swatting, there's doxing, there's everything. And the drama with all this stuff gets even worse because Wire noted that Korestein only worked at Path for a few months in 2022, but the story didn't mention why his tenure was so short. A screenshot shared on the website pathtruths.com, which we'll get more into, includes a snippet of conversations in June 2022 between Path employees discussing Edward Korestein's firing. Now, we are getting into comm drama, which is just a you just get dumber the more you learn about it, and I just want to say everything is alleged because I just want to present the drama, not become part of it. But on this website, pathtruths.com, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's leaked about Path Network, and what was picked up by the media is this group chat here, where Marshall Webb, the CEO of Path Network, replies to a message by Curtis saying, "Edward has been terminated for leaking internal information to the competitors. This is unacceptable, and there is zero tolerance for this," and then it gets cut off. And Marshall Webb said the penalty for consorting with the enemy. The fact that Edward was allegedly terminated for leaking internal information, the media turned into a rabid pit bull, and the small infant child was Edward Korestein. Because Bloomberg made an article saying Musk's Doge team was fired by cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. They just have a vendetta for this dude at this point, I'm gonna be honest. It could be the broccoli hair. And what Bloomberg did is they talked to a spokesperson from Path Networks, and the spokesperson said, "I can confirm that Edward Korestein's brief contract was terminated after the conclusion of an internal investigation into the leaking of proprietary company information that coincided with his tenure." The leaking coincided with his tenure. It wasn't anything specifically saying that he leaked, and that's because a lot more drama to this. Now, since the media was aware of the Path Truths website, every single 40-year-old person was scramming to hear about this Discord e-drama. I hate myself at this point. We're talking about e-drama, news, and TikToks. But CNN went through all of those leaked documents and found a recording between the bosses of Path Network talking about Edward Korestein's firing, or rehiring. Shit's confusing.
What if he starts leaking this information again?
That audio is from a recorded meeting. Managers talking about Edward Korestein in 2022. Korestein was fired from an internship at an Arizona data company called Path Network for leaking proprietary information, according to the CEO. Execs at the company asked what they should tell the staff about Korestein coming back.
They're freaking out in my DMs that, like, why the f*** is Edward back when Marshall said he was leaking stuff and blah, 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 like...
Just say that he apologized. He said it won't happen again, and he's
young and
migrating. He's migrating everything off of it. He's a young guy, and he has given us his word he won't do it again.
Now, to me, hearing this recording, something felt a little bit off. If Edward was fired for leaking internal information, why would they rehire him? And I realized that this video, the footage of this call, is from pathtruths.com. The leaker of all this information contained on Path Truths was in that voice call, and they said,
We
how
publicly...
you brought Edward back. You literally you slandered his name in chat. You said that he was leaking stuff without...
I didn't slander his name. He was
think that was Curtis.
They allege that there is no evidence of Edward leaking internal documents. In fact, we get a little bit more clarification just seconds after.
But by his own screenshots, he was talking to Renee, and he was paired up with Renee.
So from the perspective of these leaks, it's making it seem like DMing a competitor at all was enough to be labeled as leaking information. What I've tried to piece together is the fact that someone was leaking something somewhere, or maybe the CEO of Path, Marshall, was paranoid that someone was leaking, but what would happen is that Marshall, the CEO, would call employees and get them to screen share, asking them to go into people's private chats to try and figure out who the mole was. And these voice calls are 15 minutes of awkward hell.
Have you ever spoke to Renee?
I have not.
Go to Signal.
I have a bunch of private stuff in Signal, but
That's okay. Everyone else has done this today. I've had 12 people do this. Hello?
yeah, 1 second. I lost my mouse.
Might need to go catch it.
Yeah.
Can you show me your chats with Curtis?
Not really. I mean, I wasn't saying nothing bad about you. I mean, I don't want nothing coming back on him.
Could you go into the chat with Rai?
With who?
Rai? R-Y?
Oh, it was just
Okay.
overclocked.
Do you think he could be the leak at all?
I don't believe so. He was friends with Edward, but I think he's got too much to lose here.
Okay. What about scroll down a little bit more. What about Victor?
Not really. I mean,
Could you go into the chat with Victor?
yeah, for his stuff too. I mean, I'm not saying he was kind of bad mouthing you, but
Yeah, sure. I'm aware.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing.
Could I see the chat with Victor for context?
I guess I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I was bad mouthing you. I mean, literally, I heard about the phone call.
I think as of right now, I'm satisfied.
Okay. Yeah, sorry
Chris,
for the
thank
whole
you.
bashing you thing in there. I know I was just going along with.
No issues. I don't know what I've done for to you personally, but yeah.
Yeah, no offense.
Had
It's
you out
just
to my
joking.
house, had you come out here, had you in good accommodations. I don't know why you would do
Yeah.
that, but yeah,
Yeah, sorry
it's,
about that. I
it's
know.
good to know. Yep.
I
Okay.
don't mean to have any offense against you. It's just
Yeah.
I'm just going.
No issues, Chris. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for being understanding.
Now, according to the leaks, what happened after this is that the leaker of this all, Amy, went into a group chat and called out the behavior. I agree that nobody should have contact with our competitor's CEO, but forcing people to show their private conversations, not just with Renee. And according to the call, Edward was fired for talking with Renee.
But by his own screenshots, he was talking to Renee.
But forcing people to show their private conversations, not just with Renee, but also their conversations with me, Curtis, and other employees, is a clear privacy violation and is quite frankly just a witch hunt, making people very uncomfortable. I agree we should track down who's leaking internal things and handle it accordingly, but it should be done in the right and ethical way. I have received multiple concerned DMs regarding the last time it happened, when Curtis was terminated temporarily, and even received a recording of an employee straight up being forced by Marshall to show their private conversations with several other employees. It'd be insanely damaging if it went public that we're forcing people to show their private chats, so let's please not do that. And allegedly, according to these leaks, Marshall Webb, the CEO, says, Victor, it's a work environment and those are work conversations, and no one was forced to do anything. Which, with that recording, you can make of it as you will, everyone signed a non-disparagement, non-interference, and a confidentiality clause when they joined. The company is incredibly ethical and we will never change. We have always held that at the front. If you're here, this is your work account. We all use Signal daily for work. But the leaker pushes back saying, but we also use it off work, like a Facebook or Discord account. You can't do this. It's not legal. Ask our lawyer. They'll say the same. Marshall replies, it's clear that in the US it's legal. Feel free to review. No one had their phone physically taken or hacked. Anyone who shared did so on their own accord, and anyone who said no was not asked again.
What about Victor?
Not really. I mean,
Could you go into the chat with Victor?
The video that was sent to me shows you ignoring the employee saying no multiple times, along with them saying they don't want to go into the conversations as they're private. However, you kept asking and pushed them to enter the chats until they felt forced to do so because they feared for their job. While they did it on their own accord, I'm pretty sure it's not legal either way, as they, in their own words, were under duress and felt threatened, job security-wise, if they didn't show it to you. And after pushing back, Russ comes into the conversation and says, "You're wrong on these points, but I'm not going to spend the time to go into it. Victor, your services at Tempest, where Tempest is a subsidiary of Path Network, are no longer required, effective immediately." So he got fired for calling out that people shouldn't be forced to show their private conversations, allegedly. And all of this was happening on top of people allegedly not being paid. Chris M is in another community server where he is labeled as a Path employee, and he tells the admin to remove his role because he was fired because he wanted his paycheck. Where Ziggy, another employee at Path, said, "Your final paycheck has been paid in full. You were fired for leaking confidential data." The ex-employee retorts back saying, "I will believe it when I see it on the paycheck. Also, I have never leaked anything to anyone. I would have nothing to gain from it, just your excuse for not being able to afford to pay folks on time." And the leaker, Frozen, complained about how they allegedly didn't get their final paycheck of $18,000. The leaker also points out that they were fired for calling out the CEO, Marshall, for violating employees' privacy, and they claim that this is allegedly retaliation and wrongful termination. Now, whether if any of these statements are true or not is up to if they actually try to sue them and get their money back if this does happen. Again, these are leaks and internet drama. There's no reliable narrator. I can't trust Path, what they're saying. I can't trust what the leakers are saying. So to wrap up that bit of drama, I don't know with certainty whether or not Edward leaked anything or if he didn't leak anything. But if Edward did leak internal information, he has a massive target on his back now that he's in the government. But if Edward didn't leak internal information and he was framed because he was talking to a competitor just in casual conversation, could Edward try getting his revenge on Marshall? And Edward's revenge would be even sweeter given Edward's next comm escapade that turns sour. Because in a previous video I made, I talked about a company called Courvix, which Discord banned every single one of Courvix's emails, and it turns out through the grapevine, Edward worked for Courvix. As you can see, someone joined the server and Edward said, "Welcome to the Courvix network. Let me know should you have any questions." It's pretty clear from Edward's messages that he worked for Courvix, and in fact, in a third-party server, they were talking about Courvix and how they had a privacy VPN, and Edward said it's run on donations and the generosity of a character named Rye. And thankfully for us, Rye was so generous that he leaked a call he had with Edward, and that call got posted on Kiwi Farms by an account called Path Sucks Ass. Now, I want to say, as much as people hate Kiwi Farms, it's been pretty damn helpful for this video. Kiwi Farms has been meticulously documenting everything about Path and certain characters. They have stuff like Path's legal cases with alleged fraud, discussions alleging financial struggles, and they have a whole entire thread about one of the Path employees allegedly being a predator. Again, this is a giant rabbit hole of comm drama and allegations that I'm not diving into because this video is about broccoli hair dude who worked for Path. But let's take a look at this leaked video by Mr. Path Sucks Ass. Now, I want to preface this whole video by just playing part of it in the middle.
I want you to tell me, and you can tell me because I'm not going to tell anyone. You can trust me.
As he instantly starts recording the call the second it happens. And I want to point out, Rivage, or Edward, is having a full-on mental breakdown. You can see in the DMs at the start of the recording. "I really need to walk away. I'm drenched in sweat. Just laying down. This has caused me so much strain. I think this is the first time I've cried in years. She's already got with another guy hours later. I'm still crazy about her. All the girls I've been with have hurt me in the past. I don't think I can do this anymore. There's too much pain involved for little upside." So this dude broke up with his girlfriend and Rye recorded him breaking down in call. And let's see what's in the recording.
Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. If I go through with it or not, no idea. But now Marshall's not even keeping his word. He's docked my pay already, from what we agreed upon in the contract, and I just feel like so shammed out of it. And I showed that I had the proof of basically him threatening me.
Now, to give even more context, halfway through the video, Rye scrolls up in the DMs and we can read that Edward was venting saying, or it's because my parents don't support me at all, or because my friend ditched me today, or because I was squeezed into a corner by Marshall today, or because I don't have the balls to say what's real, or because I feel so down on myself, or because I can't decide what I'm going to do at all. You know what, Rye? I wanted to sue Path. The only thing that stopped me was you. I was so worried for you. I know you love your shit over there because I gave a big shit about you, even when I felt betrayed. And you might run off and squeal to Marshall, which I think is what happened considering he just screen recorded this and later after this, Edward got terminated from the company. But I pity you. I can't believe I even told you that. I'm watching myself fall apart. It seems like I'm totally out of control. Mental breakdown. So at the end of the day, we have Edward. In his perspective, he says he's being manipulated by Marshall, squeezed into a corner. One of his good friends that he loves and cares about, Rye, just betrayed him by recording his mental breakdown. And with all that stress combined, Edward decided to leave. And now he works for the government. And here's the thing, there's some serious potential risks with Edward being in the government. Now, the political stuff with Doge and stuff, I'm gonna push that towards the end. Let's only focus about Edward as a person being in the government. But in a Wired article talking about the Doge department, they said that they have gained access to the Treasury's department payment system, potentially allowing him access to a vast range of sensitive information about tens of millions of citizens, businesses, and more. If Edward wanted to get his revenge against Rye, the person who leaked his mental breakdown, or even Marshall at Path for pushing him into a corner, Edward does have access to the information to do so. And that is a tangible threat. Just to show you, there's someone on Discord who was talking about Tesla.sexy and Edward, and apparently he panicked out of worry and fear because originally this person assumed that Edward had a lot of power and would use it against this dude and his friends. But then, for some reason, he also starts defending Edward, saying he isn't going to. The truth is, he has little to nothing in info and power, which this article would kind of dispute that. And then they get into politics, you know, America, red team versus blue team. The left is making him seem like the last boss. And he starts defending Edward by saying, I cannot stand by and let this man, even as much bad things he's done, incriminating him while defending him, confusing, to be defamed by the left. And then they go on and on. But there is worry that Edward could potentially abuse this power. And with Path Network talking to the news and saying that Ed leaked information, is this some sort of attempt at getting Edward removed from Doge because they're also worried? It's hard to say. But it is clear to say that if Edward wanted revenge, he has the tools at his disposal. But what's more likely to happen is the exact opposite. Because looking at the Krebs on Security article, Krebs has dealt with the comm for 10 years. And he points out that if someone sincerely intends to exit the comm after years of consorting with cybercriminals, they are often still subject to personal attacks, harassment, and hacking long after they have left the scene. And he explains that's because a huge part of comm culture involves harassing, swatting, and hacking other members of the community. These attacks are often used for financial gain, but just as frequently they are perpetrated by cybercrime groups to exact retribution from or exert dominance over rival gangs. And to apply that with our situation with Edward, if Edward truly did leak information about Path, there's nothing saying that Path could, let me make it clear, there's nothing saying Path could extort Edward into handing over business information of Path's competitors. Or maybe another hosting company tries to get information on Path, because if they can get Edward on their side, there's a treasure trove of information. But those two situations don't affect everyone, but that's where we get to the final thing that could happen. Because according to a Wired article, Doge now has access to the top US cybersecurity agency. In fact, Edward Corstein is now on staff at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. In fact, Edward is listed as a senior advisor. Yes, a 19-year-old broccoli hair kid has a senior position at a government company, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But the important thing is that it's not clear what level of access Edward might have to the data and networks at CISA, but the agency itself stores a lot of sensitive and critical security information on its networks, including information about software vulnerabilities, breaches, and network risk assessments conducted for local and state election offices. Any sort of cyber criminal in the comm are foaming at the mouth right now, because each one of these vulnerabilities, breaches, and risk assessments conducted for networks, these can all be abused to facilitate a bunch of cybercrime. And there are vulnerability markets that will pay millions of dollars for a single vulnerability to be able to hack into people's devices and steal their information or hack into government networks. The 19-year-old person who has been involved in the comm has access to, if not dozens of software vulnerabilities. And I'm just gonna say, if I was a 19-year-old and I had access to dozens of vulnerabilities that I could sell for millions of dollars each, I don't know, 19-year-old me was pretty dumb and he probably had a price. Now, there was one final thing that I found while digging through all of the politics, and I just want to say the politics of this are a complete clusterfuck. There was a news article, kind of as like a gotcha. We got him, boys. Doge staffer, Edward Korestein, known as Big Balls, reportedly the grandkid of a KGB spy. He's involved with the Russian government. When I read this, my eyes rolled to the back of my fucking head. Because why is the news caring about some dude's grandkid? And even in the news article, they say that the spy was executed by the Russians before Edward was even born. And it was even years before Putin was relevant. But I actually have a bit of a news scoop, boys. As I was stalking Edward across Discord, I came across this message where he said he's Russian and that he talks to his Russian relatives frequently. So far, nothing interesting. But if I scroll down a little bit more, he talks about how some people in his family are involved in the Russian government. In fact, one of his family members has been on TV with Putin watching, which means that this spy that died before Putin was relevant, he's just one of the Russian characters that the news is gonna go absolutely buck wild trying to figure out. So there's gonna be more spy shenanigans from the media. And really, the important part about all this is going back to this quote by the former U.S. Army intelligence officer. Foreign connections, whether it's foreign contacts with friends or domain names registered in a foreign country, would be flagged by any agency during the security investigation process. The main point that I'm trying to make is that there are already plenty of red flags, especially with the Discord comm and all the stuff I talked about in this video. And the biggest issue here is, why is Edward specifically part of Doge when he could have been replaced by any other person? And I feel like all of the risks could have been easily prevented by just a single background check. And considering I'm reading this quote and looking on Discord and there's Russian relations, according to the dude, I don't know why a YouTuber is doing a better job than what's currently happening. Anyways, I've dealt with enough political brain rot and Discord e-drama that I'm genuinely going to go outside and touch grass because I fucking need to. So anyways, bye-bye, I love you. Mwah!